is not fit to be anyone's wife, least of all yours." Adaze woke before the cock crowed, not because she wanted to, but because her stepmother's sharp voice always cut through the darkness like a whip. "Adaze, lazy girl, get up and fetch water. Sweep this place before the sun rises. And don't forget the oranges. If you return with empty hands, you will sleep hungry again." That was her life. Every day, the same routine. Her stepsister Adaora snored on a soft mat, dreaming sweet dreams, while Adaze's thin body bent under the weight of work. The stepmother and her daughter never lifted a finger. They only ate, mocked, and spent the money Adaze earned on the streets. By the time the first light of dawn touched the sky, Adaze was already on the road, balancing a heavy tray of oranges on her head. Her feet were bare, her wrapper faded, her stomach empty. The sun in Abuja showed no mercy. By midday, it burned her back until sweat ran down her spine. The dust clung to her legs, the heat wrapped her throat like fire, yet still she called out with a voice that refused to break. "Oranges, sweet oranges, come and buy." Some drivers ignored her. Some hissed at her. Others laughed at the way she stumbled across the hot gravel. But Adaze kept moving. When she managed to sell, the coins went straight to her stepmother's hand. Adaze never tasted meat unless it was a festival. She never knew the feel of new clothes. And when she dared to dream of school, dream of freedom, her stepmother's voice always cut her down. "School? Who will pay for you? You are only useful for hawking. Girls like you don't have dreams. Girls like you survive." Adaora, her stepsister, was worse. Whenever Adaze returned home, tired and blistered, Adaora would smirk. "Look at you, thin as broomstick, dark like burnt yam. Who would ever marry you? Even a blind man would reject you." Adaze said nothing. She never answered back. But in the silence of night, lying on a torn mat under a leaking roof, she whispered to herself, "Maybe I am nothing. Maybe they are right." Still, her spirit refused to die. Every day she rose again, carrying her tray, carrying her pain, carrying the sun on her head like a crown no one could see. It was on one of those days, when the air was thick with dust and the roads choked with cars, that her life changed. She was weaving between traffic, calling, "Oranges, sweet oranges," when a black SUV rolled to a stop beside her. The windows slid down and Adaze froze. Inside sat a man unlike any she had ever seen. His skin was pale like morning milk, his hair the color of dry wheat, his eyes blue like the sky after rain. He wore a crisp suit even in the heat, and when he stepped out of the car, heads turned. His name was Ethan Walker, though Adaze did not know it yet. He had flown into Abuja for business, but the moment his eyes fell on Adaze, business was the last thing on his mind. Adaze swallowed hard, clutching her tray. She expected him to mock her, to wave her away as so many rich men did. Instead, he looked straight at her and smiled. "Good afternoon," she said softly, her voice trembling just a little. "Do you want to buy oranges?" Ethan's heart beat strangely fast. "Yes," he said. "I'll buy them all." "All?" Adaze blinked. Nobody ever bought more than one or two. "Yes," he said again, his voice calm but certain. "All." Her eyes widened, unsure whether to believe him. But he reached into his pocket and handed her more money than she usually made in a week. Their hands touched as she gave him the tray, and for the first time in her life, Adaze felt something no insult had ever been able to crush: hope. The next day, Adaze returned to the road with her tray balanced carefully on her head. The money notes Ethan had given her yesterday had been snatched from her hands the moment she stepped back into the shack. Her stepmother's eyes glittered with greed as she counted the crisp notes. "Where did you get this?" she demanded. "A man bought all my oranges," Adaze answered quietly. Her stepsister, Adaora, threw back her head and laughed. "A man? What man would give you this much? Stop lying, Adaze. Who would ever look at you?" When Adaze insisted she was telling the truth, her stepmother slapped her across the face. "Shameless liar! Do not let me hear such nonsense again. If a man truly gave you this, it is because he pitied you. You are not the kind men notice." Adaze swallowed her tears. She had learned long ago that, in this house, her voice was powerless. But as the sun climbed high and she returned to the roadside, she saw something that made her heart stumble. The black SUV. It stopped and the door opened. Out stepped the same man from yesterday, tall and neat, with eyes that searched for her the way thirsty soil searches for rain. Adaze's hands trembled as she clutched her tray. You came back?" she asked softly. Ethan smiled. "I was hoping to see you again." Once more, he reached into his pocket, not for coins, but for another bundle of notes. He handed them to her, far more than the price of the oranges. Adaze stared at the money in disbelief. She had never held so much at once. For a moment, she could not breathe. Ethan noticed her shock and said quietly, "It is not the fruit I came for. It is you. The slums of Abuja have eyes and tongues sharper than blades. A secret there cannot last one day," and soon Ethan's visits were no longer a mystery. Every woman at the well, every man at the beer parlor, every child playing in the dust whispered about it. "Have you seen? The white man returns every day for Adaze." That hawker girl? What charm did she use?" "No charm. Men like that don't stay. He will soon disappear, and she will fall harder than before." The whispers stung like bees, and before long, they found their way into Adaze's home. Her stepmother grew restless, her eyes burning with greed and suspicion. One evening, when Adaze returned with another neat bundle of money, the woman blocked the doorway with her thick arms. "So, it is true," she spat. "You think you can trap a rich man, eh? A man from abroad? Fool, what will a man like that do with a rat like you?" Adaora, her stepsister, clapped her hands and laughed so loudly the neighbors came to peep. "Adaze, a white man's wife? Even a goat has more chance. He only buys from you because he pities your ugly face. You are nothing, Adaze, nothing." The laughter echoed in Adaze's chest long after they went inside. She curled on her mat that night, hugging herself as tears burned her cheeks. Her heart whispered hope, but her mind screamed fear. The next day, she avoided the roadside. She wandered the market instead, hiding from the familiar black SUV. But fate has long arms. Ethan found her near a vegetable stall, her tray still half full, her eyes red from crying. "Adaze," he said softly, stepping close, "why are you hiding from me?" She kept her gaze on the ground. "It is better this way." "Better? For who?" "For me. For you. For everyone." Her voice cracked. "They say you only pity me, that when you are tired, you will go back to your world and forget me. Ethan's jaw tightened. His blue eyes burned with a fire she had never seen. He gently lifted her chin, forcing her to meet his gaze. Do you think I cross this traffic, day after day, for pity? His voice was steady but fierce. I came back because I see you, Adaze. I see your strength. I see your dignity. I see the woman who works while others mock. Do not let their poison enter your heart. Adaze shook her head, her tears spilling freely now. You don't understand. You wear suits. You live in hotels. I walk barefoot in dust. Our worlds are too far apart. What happens when you leave? What happens when your people find out you lowered yourself for me? Her words cut him, but Ethan did not flinch. He took her hands in his, holding them tightly. Then let the world talk. Let them laugh. I don't care. I am not here for them. I am here for you. For a moment, the noise of the market seemed to fade. Adaze's heart wanted to believe him, but the chains of fear still bound her. Her stepmother's insults, her stepsister's laughter, the gossip of neighbors, they echoed louder than his promises. That night, her stepmother struck her again, this time with a wooden spoon, furious that Adaze returned late. You shameless girl, do you think you are better than us? Because a rich man looks your way? He will disgrace you, and when he does, don't think this house will shelter you. I will throw you into the street like rubbish. Adaora joined in, spitting. Dream, Adaze, dream. When he drops you, I will laugh until my stomach bursts. Adaze lay on her mat, her body aching, her spirit trembling. She had nothing but her dreams, and now even those seemed dangerous. But while she wept, Ethan was making a decision of his own. He sat in his hotel room, the city lights glittering through the window, and vowed silently, I will not leave her to suffer. Whatever it takes, I will fight for her. The storm was rising, and neither of them knew how fierce it would become. The slums buzzed with whispers when Ethan's car stopped in front of Adaze's shack. Children ran after it, barefoot and curious, while neighbors leaned out of their doors, eager for gossip. Ethan stepped out, tall and commanding, his suit catching the evening light. This time, he had come not for business, but for Adaze. Adaze's stepmother came out quickly. Wiping her hands on her wrapper, her face stretched into a smile that did not reach her eyes. Adazora followed, her smirk as sharp as a knife. You are welcome, sir, the stepmother said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. Please sit. But Ethan did not sit. His eyes searched the doorway. Where is Adaze? She has gone to fetch water, the stepmother replied quickly. Then her voice softened with pretense. Sir, I know why you are here. You want to speak about my stepdaughter. Yes, Ethan said firmly. I want to make my intentions clear. I love Adaze. I wish to marry her and take her with me. Gasps rose from the neighbors outside. Adaora's mouth fell open in shock. For a heartbeat, even the stepmother froze. But only for a heartbeat. Then she threw back her head and laughed, a sharp, cruel laugh that scraped the air. Marry Adaze? You cannot be serious. Ethan's eyes narrowed. I am very serious. The stepmother's smile turned dark. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. Sir, you don't know her. Adaze is cursed. Bad blood runs in her veins. That is why no man has ever wanted her. Ethan's jaw tightened, but she was not done. And more than that, the woman hissed, she is wayward. She goes about with men when you are not here. She is not fit to be anyone's wife, least of all yours." Adaora folded her arms, nodding eagerly. "Yes, it is true. Ask anyone. She is shameless." The lies poured like poison, filling the air, thick and heavy. Outside, the neighbors whispered among themselves. Some believed, some doubted, but all watched with hungry eyes. Ethan stood tall, his face unreadable. He did not argue. He did not raise his voice. He only looked at the stepmother for a long moment, his blue eyes cold as steel. Then he nodded once. "Thank you for telling me," he said flatly. "I will think on this." Without another word, he turned, walked back to his car, and drove away. Inside the shack, Adaora burst into laughter. "He believed it, Mama. He believed you. Adaze will never see him again." The stepmother's smile was wide and cruel. Good. That is the end of her foolish dreams. And when Adaze returned from the stream that evening, balancing her clay pot, she found them waiting. Their faces glowed with wicked delight. "Your rich man came," Adaora taunted. "But he's gone now. He left without seeing you. Do you know why?" "Because Mama told him the truth about you." Adaze frowned, her heart pounding. "The truth?" "Yes," the stepmother snapped. "That you are cursed. That you carry shame with you everywhere you go. That no decent man would keep you. He knows it now. He has gone. He will never come back." Adaora clapped her hands, laughing so hard she bent double. "Look at her face. Mama, look at her eyes." She believed he loved her. "But he's gone. Who would want a hawker like you? You are nothing, less than nothing." Adaze dropped her pot, water spilling into the dust. Her knees grew weak, her chest heavy. She stumbled inside, tears streaming down her cheeks. On her mat, she curled into herself, shaking with sobs so deep they cut her breath. Her stepmother and stepsister laughed outside, their cruel voices carrying into the night. "Dreamer! Fool! You thought you could marry a rich man, eh? Now see your shame. He has left you." The neighbors whispered too, pitying some, mocking others. And Adaze, lying on her mat with her face buried in her hands, believed it. She believed she had been abandoned, but she was wrong. In his hotel room that night, Ethan paced the floor, his chest tight with anger. How can a woman treat her own stepchild with such wickedness? Adaze deserves freedom, not chains. He picked up the phone, calling his assistant. "Prepare the documents. I want everything ready. Her passport, her visa, all of it. When the time comes, I will take her with me. Let her stepmother choke on her own lies." Adaze wept in sorrow, thinking she had lost him. Yet Ethan was planning her future, writing a new chapter that her stepmother's lies could never erase. Days passed, and Adaze's world sank into darkness. Ethan had not come, and the words of her stepmother rang in her ears like a curse. "Your rich man is gone. You are nothing, less than nothing." Every night, she cried herself to sleep. Every morning, she forced herself back onto the road with her tray, her shoulders heavy, her spirit cracked. Adaora mocked her openly now. "Adaze, where is your white husband? Has he left you for another hawker? Maybe I will be the one he comes for next." The neighbors laughed. The stepmother's smile grew sharper. Adaze endured it all, her heart breaking. unaware that faraway Ethan was finalizing every detail of her freedom. Then, one hot afternoon, when the slums buzzed with their usual noise, the sound of an engine thundered down the dusty street. Heads turned, children abandoned their games. Women dropped their basins of water. The black SUV had returned. It rode to a stop right in front of the shack. The doors opened and Ethan stepped out, taller, sharper, his blue eyes blazing with determination. In his hand was a folder of documents. Behind him, his driver carried 2 small suitcases. The street fell silent. Even the wind seemed to pause. Adaze froze where she stood with her tray, oranges slipping from her trembling hands. She could not breathe. He had come back. The stepmother rushed out, Adaora at her side. Their mouths hung open. For a moment, they could not speak. Then the woman forced a laugh. "Sir, you are back. You see, I told you Adaze is cursed. Did she not disgrace herself already? Leave her and go." Ethan's voice cut through like a sword. "Enough!" The stepmother staggered back. The neighbors gasped. Ethan's gaze swept over the crowd, then fell on Adaze, trembling by the doorway. He walked toward her slowly, every step heavy with meaning. "Adaze," he said, his voice softer now. "Forgive me for the days I stayed away. I was not gone because I believed their lies. I was gone because I was preparing everything we need." He held up the folder, opening it so she could see passports, visa papers, flight tickets, all in her name. Her lips parted in shock. Her knees nearly gave way. "Ethan," she whispered. The stepmother let out a sharp cry. "No, this cannot be. You are a fool, sir. She will bring you shame," Adaora hissed, her eyes wide with rage. "Choose me instead. I am prettier, I am stronger, not this useless hawker." But Ethan did not even glance at them. He took Adaze's hands in his, right there before everyone. "I love you, Adaze. From the first day I saw you, I knew you were more than what this world calls you. I came back because I want you as my wife. Say yes, and I will take you away from this suffering forever." The slums erupted in gasps. The neighbors whispered furiously, unable to believe what they were witnessing. Tears spilled down Adaze's cheeks. For years, she had been called worthless, cursed, nothing. And now, before the very people who mocked her, she was being lifted higher than she had ever dreamed. "Yes?" she whispered, her voice breaking with emotion. "Yes, I will marry you." Ethan smiled, his eyes shining. He drew her into his arms, holding her tightly as the crowd broke into murmurs and shouts. Some clapped, some sneered, but all were shocked. The stepmother collapsed onto the ground, wailing. "No, no, this cannot happen. After all my sacrifices, after all my plans." Adaora stamped her feet, her face twisted with envy. "It should have been me, not her." But it was too late. The choice had been made. Ethan guided Adaze gently toward the SUV. The driver placed her tray aside and loaded the suitcases. Ethan opened the door and helped her in, treating her like the queen she truly was. The neighbors watched, their mouths wide open, as the car engine roared to life. Dust rose into the air as the SUV began to roll forward. Adaze looked out the window one last time. She saw her stepmother's face twisted with fury, her stepsister's eyes red with jealousy, the neighbors whispering in disbelief. And then she turned her face toward Ethan, who reached across and took her hand. "You are safe now," he said softly. "This is the beginning of your new life." Adaze smiled through her tears, squeezing his hand. For the first time in her life, she believed it. The car sped off, leaving the slum behind. The shack, the insults, the pain all fading into the dust of the past. Adaze was no longer the hawker girl mocked as nothing. She was a bride, a woman chosen, loved, and lifted into a destiny no lie could steal. And so, with her heart full of hope, she drove away into a future brighter than the sun she had carried all her life. The plane touched down on American soil, and for the first time in her life, Adaze stepped into a world she had only ever imagined. Tall buildings glittered like jewels, wide streets stretched endlessly, and people moved with the rush of a world she had never known. Ethan held her hand the entire way, never letting go, guiding her through the busy airport as though she were the most precious person alive. And in truth, she was. Their wedding had been simple but beautiful, attended by a few close friends. But the promise Ethan made that day was far greater than flowers or rings. He promised her a life of dignity, a life where no voice would call her worthless again. Weeks later, Adaze walked through the gates of a school in America, books pressed to her chest, her head held high. Her heart raced with excitement. She was no longer the hawker mocked in the streets of Abuja. She was a student, a woman rising, building the future she had once only whispered to the stars. Every evening, she came home to Ethan, who listened proudly as she shared all she had learned. Slowly, she began to shine in ways no one had ever believed she could. Far across the ocean, in the slums of Abuja, her stepmother and Adaura now carried the same burden they had once forced on her. With no one left to provide for them, they hawked oranges under the blazing Sunday. Their laughter had turned to silence, their voices hoarse from calling out to uninterested passers-by. The same neighbors who once mocked Adaze now shook their heads. "See how the proud have fallen," they murmured. They mocked her, yet look at them now. And so it was that the girl who had been called cursed rose higher than anyone dreamed, while those who scorned her sank into the very dust they had condemned her to. Adaze smiled as she walked hand in hand with Ethan after class one evening, her books in her arms, her heart light. She had been a hawker, a servant, a girl with no voice. But now she was a wife, a student, a woman with dignity and a future bright as the morning Sunday. The oranges were behind her forever. Ahead was destiny.